In this episode of Man vs. Marriage, sex. I just like to say that word. Sex and connection. Is there a difference? I don't think I titled the show right. Let's get into it.
The podcast.
How good do you want your life to be?
It's truly about becoming the best version of yourself that's possible.
This is Man vs. Marriage.
The podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Man vs. Marriage. This is me, Quincy Moran, in the Moran family studio with my lovely wife, Jeannie Moran. Jeannie, whatever you want to say to the peeps, let it ride.
Hey, guys.
That was slightly lackluster. The next time, just come straight with something. Sing us a song.
No.
Come on, man. I can't believe this crap. Anyway, hey, we're back for another episode. In this episode, I said we were going to talk about sex and connection. And it should probably be more like sex without connection, sex with connection. Is there a difference? So maybe I'll firm up, for lack of better terminology, the title of the show so it's more stimulating.
Mm-hmm. You're so proud of yourself for this, aren't you?
And then truly it'll be more satisfying to the participants that look upon it. Anyway, that's about all I have. That's what she said. It's probably going to be that kind of day. With that being said, I have a question for each of you listening to the show. But before I do that, make sure that you are utilizing that Man vs. Marriage email if you have questions or comments, or you want other topics that center around what is going on in your marriage. It doesn't just have to be bad. It can also be what's great about your marriage. Tell us your story, because we will learn from you as much as you learn from us. So thanks for doing that. It's Jeannie, Jeanne, at mvsmpodcast.com, or Quincy at mvsmpodcast.com, and that's Quincy. There is no E in my name, my first name. Also, if you appreciate the show, go give us a 5-star review. I'd appreciate that. I'm too proud to beg, but it does help us grow in the ratings for the podcast, and then it broadens our platform for who can find the show. It'll make it easier than it was for you to find the show, because this is a passion project for us. I don't go out and sink any money into marketing, primarily because I have a very limited time. So I need to be a better podcaster. But you can help me with that by giving the show a review and sharing it with your buddies. Go do that for me, and I will continue to do this for you. With that being said, let me ask you this question, guys. Are there times when you have an orgasm, but you still feel like something is missing? Honey, I'll ask you this question. Are there times where you have an orgasm, or multiple, but you still feel like something is missing? Please be honest.
That's a hard one, because if things aren't exactly right, my body will respond, but it's not going to be as satisfying.
Yeah, so what do you think? I mean, there's a physical need for sex and climax.
But I can get that from a toy.
You can. That's fair. I mean, that is just being as
that's
straight.
It's the honest truth.
Yeah, we're all grown-ups here. You can get that physical need met by masturbation. You could do that, whether it's with a toy or whatever. You can do that. But is that as meaningful as having sex with connection?
No.
I would say no. I would also venture to say, and I didn't plan on bringing this part up, but if you're pretty heavy into porn, I think you're on a road that is going to inhibit your ability to connect and have like meaningful sex, making love over the long term. I didn't plan on talking about this at all, but since it's come up, for lack of a better terminology. Man, I'm getting good at this. That's what she said. Obviously, I'm a fan of The Office. My kids watch it all the time, so that's what she said all the time. So with that being said, I have spoken, guys have come to me, one guy in particular, talking about porn. Now, I've heard out there that there are marriage counselors or therapists who recommend that husbands and wives watch porn together to stimulate their sex life. Jeannie and I don't do that. I don't engage in pornography. There was a time in my life where I dabbled in it a little bit, but then I felt just gross. But this is me, okay? This is me. I felt gross because while I am making love to my wife, I don't want to think about a porn star, a movie star, or anyone else. I want my full focus and attention on connecting and promoting as much pleasure as possible for my wife. But this particular guy was letting me know. He's like, for whatever reason, he wanted to talk to me. This is way before any podcast or anything. Maybe it was because I was a pastor at that time or something. Who knows? But he started telling me about porn and his porn addiction and how it had gotten to the point where there was almost nothing he could do to climax. And that porn had so deeply insensitized him, now he couldn't get any kind of fulfillment. And where do you go from there? And I was actually talking about this with a friend of mine the other day because he has guys coming to him talking about their struggle with porn. And in my opinion, excessive porn or porn in general, it can lead to truly creating some unreal expectations of your spouse, even yourself. But it can also, not always does, but it can also really start to desensitize you and your ability to get aroused and climax. And if you're having sex without connection, it really can put like a negative place. It can develop a negative place in your relationship. Why was it a struggle for me to say that? Because I was trying to say it without any like sexual connotation, because I keep doing that. But that's just there's no extra charge for that. That is just my thought. Now, I'm sure there are couples out there that watch porn and their sex life is healthy. You've got to do what's best for, your relationship. Jeannie and I will watch some Kim Anami videos from time to time. She doesn't use the human body. She uses fruit with what she talks about, as we're kind of...
And toys. She does show toys a lot.
Oh, she does show toys too. As we're kind of exploring, the depths of what...
You hear something and you go, is that true? Okay, hold up. I got to go see this because I don't know that this is true. And then you watch the video and you listen to the explanation and you go, huh, all right. Okay, there's a little bit of intrigue there. We need to discover whether or not this is true for us.
Yeah. And she's not for the faint of heart.
No.
I mean, she has no filter. I think she probably kind of borderlines on like goddess worship of the woman.
Something like that. But you got to chew the meat, spit out the bones kind of thing. And no pun intended. You just kind of got to take what works for you, what makes sense for you. Because there's some stuff that she talks about that Quincy and I are just like, no.
Yeah.
We're not even going to look at it. We're not going to discuss it. That's just a hard no.
Of course.
But there are some things that we found that she's actually accurate in her description and what works and what doesn't. But again, if you have a wife who can't handle like sex scenes on the TV, or if you're one of those guys that when a sex scene comes on, you got to look away, Kim may not be the first place for you to go.
Well, I am the kind of guy that, when boobs pop up on the TV, I do look away.
Yeah, but you don't blush. There's a difference.
Maybe I don't blush anymore, which, it's like, whoa, those are boobs. But I do that because I don't want those images. I think porn can be very sticky, and those images can get, I just look. It's gonna happen all day
It's
long.
not going to help you because you're sitting across from me, and my facial expressions are not helping. I'm sure.
I think I've talked about porn as it's almost like napalm. It's a fire that's sticky and it doesn't ever burn out. I mean, it's something that you can get caught in. You got to know your personality. There are some people who can have a couple of cocktails and they're good. There are some people who, if they drink a little, they're going to drink a lot, and it's going to become habit forming and could potentially destroy their life. And so on and so forth. That is, you're just getting my opinion. I'm not even trying to, convict or condemn you if you're into porn. I'm just saying you might want to take a step back and look at how it's affecting your relationship, if it is. I reckon if it's working for you, and you're not sneaking around and, doing these things and so your wife doesn't know about it and who knows what else. Jeannie and I, we're pretty open. I'm sure we don't know 100% about everything with everybody or each other. But as the conversations come up, we do talk a lot, and we're very open with one another. With that being said, I think it's important that you review what effect is it having on your life and your relationship. And then I'll basically close the door on the porn conversation. It just kind of presented itself when I'm talking about it. So, and the reason is because when there are times when we're having sex that, like you say, my body has the proper response. It has the proper reaction. I climax. It's good. It kind of simmers the beast in me. But more than that, I'm looking for us to connect. And I know in one of our marriage courses, with Bill and Rita, they were talking about that's the man's most vulnerable place, is that height of climax. And that's why the connection is so important. That's that physical connection that it turns more than just a physical connection. And so for me, it's like, if we look, there's any number of factors that can be going on too. Like we've talked about in other episodes. Maybe your schedule just has you out of your mind, but you are still looking to meet your need and your partner's need sexually. But you're not all in because the worries of the day or what has to get done is driving your attention. I mean, it's just pulling you away. Maybe there's things going on at work if you work outside the home and frustrations and concerns and, you're just extremely worried. There's volatile times going on at work. Or maybe there's something exciting coming for work and that's what you're thinking about. There's a number of factors that can get in the way. And one of the other things that has gotten in the way for Jeannie and I is routine. I mean, we do some particular things. And those things are like, at least for me, it's like, ooh, I like that. I could do that every day and life would be fine. But then you get into the routine of it and it's like, I'm enjoying this, but where's the connection? So physically this is good, but where's that emotional, deeper connection that I'm looking for? That's a need for me that needs to be met. So generally, if there's something that's off, as you all know, I'm exposing myself metaphorically and saying that if there's a connection there that's missing, or Jeanne and I both go, but it's like, oh man, it doesn't seem like we connected there. If I'm not making sense, you need to tell me.
No, you're making sense.
I look at myself and say, well, is it me? Is there something? Am I going through something? Am I preoccupied? Is something on my mind? Did I not just like push all the other things of the day away so that I can keep my focus, my attention, and my connection with my wife? If I feel pretty good about everything, then that kind of alerts me to say, I wonder what's going on with my wife and if she is okay. Because maybe my connection is out there and she has reserved hers because she's occupied or hurt, frustrated, frazzled, or pissed. But, she has a desire and I have a desire for us to meet each other's needs. So just take a minute to think about your sex life. You know, what's going on between you and your spouse? Is there that connection there that really makes you feel as if you are fulfilled? What can you speak around that, honey, that you could give, like, our guys, how could they approach that if something feels like it's off?
First, I would say step out of routine. You know, if you have a set way that you do things, and we've been guilty of this so many times because, you know, kids in the house, schedules, it's you're out of the shower, let's do what we need to do and we'll go from there kind of thing. I would say take a step back and look at the routine. Is it becoming routine? Is it the same thing every time? Is it expected to be the same thing every time? And is the response the same? You know, is there any banter or playfulness leading up to the event? Like, you and I play around all day long, you know, throwing innuendos out, throwing jokes at each other, making sure the other one knows I'm interested. I'm very, very interested, and this is what I'm up for. You know, it's, if there's no response in that, then I would question what's going on. Because we're pretty good at throwing stuff back and forth, but we're also at the point in our marriage now where we can say, so I know today's busy, but I'm going to need this from you tonight. It's just a different dynamic for us at this stage of the game. For me, if I'm not connecting, it's usually because I am in my head. I've got a lot of stuff going on, or I'm frustrated about something, or maybe I'm not real good at communicating. This is not what I need tonight. This is not the position I'm looking for. This is not the, for lack of a better word, angle I'm aiming at. But I don't always know how to ask for that either. Mm-hmm. We're at a place now where you kind of ask questions. If I'm overly stressed, there are certain things that we do to help with that. And now it's like you'll ask. You seem like you're been kind of a stressful day. Do we need to change up? Maybe try this or do that. Would that help you, kind of thing? That's really.
Yeah, and just to further that a little bit, you know, if I see that Jeannie is like crazy stressed out, just like recently, it's like, honey, I think we need to try this particular situation, this particular position, this particular ABC, because you look really stressed. And I mean, the last time we did those things and you were very stressed, you appeared to come away from that thing. Gosh, I just did it again. After we were done, you know.
She slept really well.
And so I was able to kind of read her body language, for lack of a better term, before, you know, we engaged in, you know, having sex and say, and like I say, we're learning stuff from Kim and Nami. And usually, you know, it's like one video lasts us a year, you know, because it's like, wow, this is way outside of what we've ever thought about.
It takes a while to get comfortable with new stuff, you know, because it's not just trying something new.
Yeah.
You have to get out of your head. No pun intended, but you have to get out of not just what you're doing and what your mind is freaking out about, but you've also got to adjust your body's response.
Yeah.
You have to adjust to that. It's like, well, okay, this is different. This is not, it's not bad, but I don't know how I feel about this yet. It's a lot. And it's, that can affect the connection in the beginning too, because you're trying to, with sex, there's a lot of sensations. So you have to kind of figure out, what's my brain telling me, you know, what's the voice in my head versus what's my body's response. Mm-hmm. And what can I do? What can I do? Can I tolerate? Can I not tolerate? It just depends on your creativity and what you're trying and where you're at. I mean, some people would look at bondage as a freak out. You know, it's not acceptable. It's considered taboo in some places. It shouldn't be anymore, but it kind of is. It's one of those things of ultimate submission. And in your head, if you're not a person who submits easily, that could be a fight. That could be a struggle to be able to get past your own barriers to trust your spouse enough to be okay with this. It's a simple thing when you think about it, but it's really not. You know, there's so many different aspects, especially talking to people who are introducing toys into their relationship. It's like, well, I don't feel right about this because it's not him. It's a toy. It's not, you know, but you're doing it together. That's what brings the connection. It's a new experience, but you're trusting each other with something new. You're trusting each other in the most vulnerable state you could possibly be in, to allow each other to, I mean, we have had moments where it's like, oh, hell no, this is not us. And it does screw up the moment. And it usually becomes a very comedic situation.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, nope, mood's gone. Sorry, no. And then it's okay, rain check tomorrow. We try again without that. But you have to know your partner.
Yeah.
To be able to experience that. As far as a connection is concerned, sometimes for us, we'll just lay in here naked and have a conversation just to get out whatever is, you know, kind of the loudest thing in the head, the loudest voice going on. We'll clear the air before we come together and have a connection, because now there's nothing in the way.
Right.
We have to lay all this. And it might be a conversation of things that you and I need to deal with. Or maybe there's, you know, you said this and this didn't go over well and I'm still struggling with it. Or it could be, you know, the kids' schedule and things that are going on at home, because that's where majority of my focus lands. Once those things are all out, it's like, okay, now we can do this.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to kind of prep for it. The other one is plan a getaway. Yeah. If you're noticing that the connection is not there, or you're noticing that maybe she's in her head a lot, or maybe you can't focus. You know, you've got work going on, you've got different things happening around you that you're responsible for, and it's a lot on your chest. The sex is happening, but it's just not fulfilling what you need. Get away. Take your wife and go somewhere.
Yeah.
Drop your phone. Don't take work with you. Don't take the kids with you. Go away where you can spend a night or two and just go watch movies, go to dinner, walk around. Do what you guys enjoy doing to get that basic connection rekindled, so to speak. I guarantee you the sex will be different.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And if you can't tell, Jeanne and I in our sex life are pretty conservative, so to speak, based on what's out there. So, you know, certain things that we're talking about, we kind of dance around them because, A, we don't have much experience with them, and B,
y'all don't need to know everything.
You don't need to know everything. That's true. I mean, at some point, I'm sure we'll talk more openly, but we're pretty conservative as far as our, you know, sex life has been. It was probably 2 years ago where we were on our way to Big Bear, and we actually opened up talking about sex and our expectations and what we thought the other one thought about positions and lingerie and toys, etc. And it was like, oh, well, I just naturally assumed this about you. I was like, no, not at all. Never considered that. And it's like, oh, well, I thought this about you. And I mean, we're talking, we've been married for 20 years. So we're putting it out there. We have no idea where you are in your sex life, and, you know, really don't need to know that. But just to say, like this, the first Kim and Nami interview I heard was on Front Row Dads. And I was listening to her, and she was talking about a woman's ability to orgasm and what affects that. And then what it does for your wife when she does orgasm, and what it like what it does for her physically and emotionally and mentally. And it's like, I have to know more about this because these are things that I want. A, is my wife experiencing them? And if she's not, how can we work to get her there? Because I want to seek a deeper connection with you. And I know there's no pun intended there, but actually there's a lot of pun intended there, but it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So we started listening to her, and I mean, the things that she was saying, I was at the doctor's office. I remember distinctly where we were, and I was blushing myself because she said these words, like,
The first one you had me listen to, she talked about, quit pussyfooting around it, push her up against a wall, and fuck her hard. And it was like, yeah, this works. I
put
totally
the E for explicit
dude,
there.
just mark them all E. I'm on it.
I know.
It's never. You
But
just never know what's gonna come out of my
She
mouth.
said that, and it was like, okay, A, do I have the confidence to do that? Because I have insecurities about my body. I'm, been overweight for most of my life. And then there have been times where I've tried to, like, initiate sex, and it's really just gone bad. So that affects my confidence. And so there's always that voice in the back of my head saying, oh, you don't want to do that. Because when things don't go well, I jump into the whole rejection thing. It's a rejection of me. It's not to mention, I mean, very bad timing on my part.
Yeah.
Unless we're at a hotel or it's a really, really interesting day, Jeannie is not a morning person.
No.
And, so I need to understand that. I'm an anytime person. If Jeannie wakes me up out of a dead sleep, I'm ready.
I can be woken up, but generally it's it's a hit or miss with me.
Unless we're at a hotel and she's getting sleep, but I know those things now. And then hearing Kim say like things like that, which that's not it. That's not all she says, but it's like, okay, well, this is really between my wife and I anyway, so I need to listen to understand this, because if I can utilize this information and strengthen my relationship and make my sex life better, then I would be a fool if I didn't, because some of these words are not words that, I mean, all the words I hear are words that are in the construction industry that I've worked in for the better part of a quarter century. But I don't use those words. But that's where things started to open up for Jeannie and I a couple of years ago. We've made it clear. There's a line that we're never going to cross, and that is when we're having sex, there's only going to be two people in the room, me and Jeannie. Mm-hmm. That's it. We're not crossing over into that swingers lifestyle, inviting a third party in the bedroom. That's not for us. This is the most cherished relationship we have on earth, and this is just an agreement for us. If you're doing that, you got to do what's you, but for her and I, it's about a monogamous relationship, and that's the foundation of our relationship. So with that being said, the things that Kim talks about, even though she is, would you say pervasive? I don't know. I don't know what official word to use, but if you can eat the meat, spit out the bones, that type of deal, she did teach me some things that helps when Jeannie is in her head or the stress of life is going on, things that you can do to alleviate or like relax those things in your wife's brain to get closer to that particular connection that you're looking for, and not just sex. There are times, we're all adults, we've come too far now to look back. We're all adults. There are times where one or both of you just needs a quickie. You need a hit. It's like we just need to tear each other's clothes off.
Take
and
the edge off.
Yeah, the mission is
get her done.
Let's come together. Let's have an orgasm as quickly as possible and go, I needed that. Okay, back to work. Whatever it is, But when you're looking for something that's deep, meaningful, passionate, and just really based in connection, we usually get that the most when we go away, because we don't generally have to worry about somebody banging on the door, one hotel experience aside.
Yeah.
Because at home, there's always noise and racket. Did we lock the door, etc., and how vulnerable can you really get? And things, I would say, have been getting better because we do lay in bed naked and talk. And obviously you keep my attention when you're naked, very much so. But you go back to the beginning of this podcast for the question is there a difference in sex without connection and sex with connection? And I would say, yes, there is a big difference. There might be a time and place for both, but ultimately for our sexual journey and relationship, I'm looking for that connection that's in there, something that's fulfilling beyond the physical connection, like spiritually, emotionally, physically. When all three of those things are together, I believe our relationship gets stronger. Like it deepens our connection, our love, and our commitment towards one another.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that sex is fulfilling as like a physical need, but in my opinion, there's a deeper need for connection, and sometimes we're either missing it. Sometimes maybe you're frustrated, so you're withholding it. Sometimes you're so stressed out, you don't know how to let it go in order to find that connection. And so how do you overcome that? I think we've given you some great ideas, which is if you're not already, and I know it's hard, I know that it's sometimes feels impossible, especially when you have new kids, like a young infant at home, or you have toddlers, you have to look for babysitting. But guys, it is worth the time, the effort, and the investment to find ways to sneak your wife away for, even if it's just a staycation in the same town, but it's overnight and she gets to sleep in, and then you can go out and experience something together. I think for us, the money spot for us is to be away 4 days, 3 nights. That seems to be our money spot because the first day is like travel, get there. You kind of shake the dust off and it's like, okay, now we have like 2 or 3 more nights where we know tomorrow we can sleep in. We've got the day to do whatever we want. So is it like 4 days, 3 nights seems to be the money spot for us?
Yeah, because usually the first night we get in, we go straight to the hotel. We'll have something to eat, and then it's like, let's watch the movies we can't watch at home.
Yeah.
Relax. If you have any final stuff you need to taper off with work, that gets done the first night so that it doesn't disrupt anything else. We just kind of take downtime, and then we plan out, what are we doing? Where do we want to go? Usually there's some kind of sporting event or something involved, and it's like, okay, well, we know what we want to see. We know where we want to go, the things we want to do. And then we kind of plan around that.
Yeah, and the first night, we usually get our first round of sex in.
Yeah, but the first night is usually like the relief sex.
Yeah.
Like, we're here.
We're here. We're free. Let's have sex.
The next 3 nights are more
we're taking more time.
intentional.
Yes.
Yeah, very intentional.
And then, like the day plan is I keep the room as dark as possible because Jeannie loves to sleep. Well, first of all, she loves to stay up really late because she's a night owl, but then she likes to sleep in. So,
and I don't get to do that at home.
Right. So then she gets the benefit of sleeping until like 2. So I'll usually just lay in bed for as long as possible until it's like, okay, I can't do this crap anymore. I got to get out of bed. So I'll sneak out of bed, go over to the couch, cover up because I like to keep the room really cold, and then, watch some Netflix or YouTube. I might, read the Bible or, do some things of that nature and just let Jeannie sleep in until has no ounces of sleep left. Mm-hmm. And then that's where our day begins. And she can take her time. I can take my time getting ready, just messing around, doing anything we want. Then we'll get out on the town. That's what makes Vegas so appealing, is that like it's a 24-hour place. So you don't get started until 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. That's because you've slept in. If I'm having a cheat day or something like that, I'm sitting on the couch, on the covers, watching something on Netflix or Prime Video, jamming on some Doritos, etc., just eating and hanging out. She's sleeping, and then, we do our thing, and then, it kind of progresses from there. But that's a lot of talking to say, start planning some getaways. Even if it's like once every 3 months, plan some type of getaway. Do the hard work to figure it out for your wife so she doesn't have to do it. Typically, she's at home. For us, Jeannie's at home making the plans, running the schedule, and she's always got something she needs to do. So for me, it's like I like to put it together. As of late, I think we've both, like I said, okay, we need a getaway. We'll look for these opportunities. I'm traveling with work, building up my Marriott rewards points, so
Playoff game.
there's things that you can do to invest in that, but those are the places. And I think the primary time that built this in our foundation was when we went to San Diego. And we've used that to repeat, further successes. And those times are when it's just you guys and you are building connection and making love and really taking time to relax and to invest in each other. And that to me is where you really build that connection you're looking for. Now, if you're married, you have no kids, and you're at home, maybe it's not as appealing for you to go get away. You've got what you need at home. But that is for us in the stage of life where we are.
That's true, though, because even without having kids, if the connection is missing and you're trying to rebuild that, getting away doesn't just mean going to a hotel. Go do something that you guys enjoy.
That's fair.
And spend time together just being. Rather than, some people like to go skiing. Some people like to go out on the lake. Some people like to go experience different things.
Or something new.
True. We like to go to sporting events. So we'll go to a sporting event without the kids and, go nuts, get aggressive, have a good time. But it's just something to get us out together, having a good time. It just makes everything a lot easier because now your guards are down. You're comfortable. You're relaxed. You're having fun. It's a lot easier to set the mood when you're already pretty relaxed and comfortable.
I'll defer to you. I think it's a great point that you make, and I agree with it. So I don't know what this looks like for you, but I encourage you to really, really take a firm look at it and see where it is as far as, is your sex life fulfilling? Now, don't go home and tell your wife that Jeannie and Quincy said this, so this is the way it has to be. Women, don't go home and tell your husband, although he probably wouldn't much have an issue. But this is just some foundational framework you can use to look at your life and your sex life and say, is it meeting my need? Are we connecting? Because I firmly believe that a strong, healthy sex life really promotes a healthy marriage. You need to know each other's expectation. It was a great exercise we did at the One Marriage Conference, like I talked about, and say, well, how many times a week would you like sex? Some people are closed off. It's like once or twice a month is good. That's all I need. That's not Jeannie and I,
No.
Fortunately. That doesn't mean it always because that's the way it is, doesn't mean that's the way it has to be. Maybe one or both of you are dealing with a lot of insecurity, and you can start to overcome those things.
What helped with us, one of the things that helped was we kind of, I don't remember if it was you or if it was me. I think it might have been me. Buy a toy. Buy a outfit for lingerie. Do something that's out of the ordinary and then present it. And not forcefully, but, I heard about this or I read about this and it kind of intrigued me. I thought this might help kind of bring something extra to the table. One, for me, it shows ingenuity. It shows that you're actually, it's imagination and creativity. You're doing something outside of the norm and bringing it to me to say, I thought about you and I thought about this. And the idea of us together with this sounds like a good plan. Or, finding an outfit that you would like to see worn or that you would want to wear. In her case, I used to do it all the time. If we were going away, he already knew I was bringing some kind of new lingerie just because it made me feel good to get out of the norm. And we're away. This is, a special time. But we have stuff at home too. I mean, dude, change position.
Mm-hmm.
Tony is probably one of our favorite people for showing us what the Liberator was. It's just, it helps with different positions. It helps with different views.
Yeah.
It just gives you more option without putting stress on your body.
Maybe we should have an Amazon page like Tony and Lisa do that is like, try these particular pillows, or maybe we should consider doing that and
we'll
putting
look at
it out.
that.
Because like when we went to that conference, it's like, hey, here's our page. Obviously, hopefully they get some kind of kickback if you buy something from their page. But more importantly, it's like, here's the things that we've used that work well.
And it has their reviews, their personal reviews of we liked, we didn't like.
Yeah. And this Liberator pillow, Jeannie and I bought it, and it does help a lot.
It looks like an ottoman, so it's real easy to pass with the kids.
Yeah, yeah, if you're worried about that. But they put on there, like, the lube, rubbing lotion, certain toys that they've used.
Starter toys.
Yeah, to, like, give you some kind of an idea of what to try, even though it might feel weird. But the Liberator pillow for Jeannie and I have been great, because I'm a bigger guy who's, I've lost a lot of weight. But it helps because maybe you don't have the best bed and you can't afford to buy another bed. But this particular pillow, it can be firm in the right places, soft in the right places, and then it helps you with positions.
Different angles are different types of orgasms for the female, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, and then, as you age, like we're in our 40s, so we're not as whatever as
Limber.
we were in our... I'm actually in better shape now than I was in my 20s, which I can appreciate, and hopefully Jeannie does too. But it's very appealing. And for a long time, we were not using the pillow. We tried a few times. It's like, what is this? But we really didn't understand how to use it. And then you want to be careful because you don't know what you're going to find if you search on Google. Mm-hmm. And you don't want it to come up in your feed and make you feel like just make you look like a I don't know, degenerate. Who knows? Anyway, one night I was like, you know what? I was listening to it might have been Tony and Elisa's podcast or whatever, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to take another round with this pillow and see if it does something to help my wife, to help me. Lo and behold, booyah. I was like, oh, I didn't think about this pillow or this Liberator ottoman or whatever for this. Let's try it this way. Let's try it this way. And each and every time from there has been a success. It makes it a little more convenient position-wise. So that's something that will help you as well. And look, Tony and Elisa are really open about the challenges that they've had in their sex life. And because we're all married and we're adults, we should be a bit more open about what we're going through. Our sex life has not been perfect. Jeannie used to have sex with me, and I was nearly 400 pounds. You don't know Jeannie. She, at that time, she's always been 5'4" and a half since I've known her. But she was around $125, $125. And I'm literally 3 or 4, almost 4 times her size. And I could only imagine it had to be painful. I mean, thank God that she loved me enough to endure it. But your body changes over time. And for Elisa, she was very candid about her body and sex and what she wants, what she can take, and, Tony as well. So why not utilize maybe this podcast or something of that nature to open that discussion up? I would say probably the younger generation, the people in their 20s right now, maybe even early 30s, information is just busted wide open. So we might be talking to people our age and older, because I think people in their 20s, there's nothing they don't know, it seems.
If they read typical romance novels, they've got a plethora of information right there in front of them.
Okay.
Without, I mean, some of the groups on Facebook and things like that I talk to, and it's usually around book stuff. There's a lot that comes out about marriages and, you know, their sex life and things they try, things they don't. There's a lot of conversation about, you know, what they're looking for and how do I address this. It's not, people aren't as closed off as they used to be, and they're constantly asking questions and looking for advice or help, or, you know, where can I find this? Where I have one friend that we've never met in person. We talk all the time on the phone, and we talk online all the time. But she and I are pretty open because we don't really know each other. We're not in front of each other, so it's not as,
Right.
you know.
You don't feel like you're going to be judged by it.
Yeah, well, no. And her experience is way beyond what you and I have ever considered. But having somebody to be able to say, dude, where do I buy this?
Mm-hmm.
And not look like a chode because I'm online looking at, you know, all these. Like, if you type in anal, watch out, because you're going to find all kinds of interesting things. That's not what we were looking for.
Yeah.
That's not what I was looking for. And, you know, so you have to be able to ask someone or know someone you trust. You and I are pretty open about that stuff now. And
We are now.
It's like, hey, I want to look at getting something like this. Let's look online together. A, that means that neither one of us is looking at something we shouldn't be. B, we're both looking at the other's interest and saying, okay, well, that looks like it might work, but I'm not sure that this is going to be comfortable for me. So we'll keep looking until we find something we can both agree on. Or he'll just tell me, here's X amount of cash. Go find something. Let's just do something different. And you have to really be trusting to do that.
Yeah.
And it's not always about toys. It's really not. I mean, we've had nights, we play dice. We have dice that have words written on them, and it's like, lick this, suck that, bite this, touch that. And it's just to break the ice, to do something different. It's to make it playful again, to get beyond, you know, just getting down to. And it's freaking hilarious when some of these things pop up and you're going, lick your ear? Like, okay.
I'm all into lick your ears, girl.
I'm just
I'll bite
saying,
them
it's
things.
like, it's not all, you know, what you're thinking. It's Go back to the Friends episode, dude. She's right. 7 zones, take it slow, find them all, take your time. But I mean, you just have to be willing to try something different.
Yeah. And, you know, for just looking at us, like, go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com. I think that's Tony and Elisa's website. Look for the things they talk about.
7-day sex challenge.
Yeah, they have a 7-day sex challenge. I think they have a 30-day
They have a 30-day
sex.
one too. But try the 7-day one first, trust me.
Yeah.
Start small.
And then
Aim small, miss small.
they had their struggles with oral sex too. And they're open about that. Where else are you going to find out?
They had struggles with masturbation with each other.
Yeah.
It's like being able to masturbate with your spouse present. Some people are uncomfortable with that. For some people, it's like, you know, it depends on your filter and how you see things.
Right.
But over the years, you and I have learned it's not exactly what we were taught, because you're my husband. There are no boundaries with my husband except those that we've set.
Yeah, we've set the boundaries for that in order that we would have like a healthy sex life.
And there are times when we'll say, you know, this kind of intrigues me, but I'm not really sure. And the other one might say, you know, maybe later, but I'm just not feeling
there
that
yet,
right now. You know, we're not comfortable enough. But that's the whole point. Once you get to where you're comfortable enough, this is where the connection comes in, because now you're experiencing it together. It's something new. And if it does work, great. If it doesn't, usually it's a pretty funny memory for the two of us, and it will come up later in we'll be eating dinner out or something, and someone will say a word, and both of us will look at each other and start cracking up, because that's the image that we think of. You're just trying to find what makes the other one tick. What are your interests? You know, try to get past taboo. It's only taboo if you make it taboo. What other people think doesn't matter because they're not in your bedroom.
Right.
That's why we're not giving you complete and total access to what we do or don't do. You're not in our bedroom.
I'll give you some parameters to think about, like early on in this conversation about porn, and beware.
Yeah.
Beware, and especially if you're noticing these particular things and you're struggling to connect. Like we do in just about every episode, it's like take a step back and look at it. Figure out what it is. But in your, and I agree with you, honey, it's like this is what has helped our relationship. We're giving you what's helped our relationship. Now, there are other people who are probably listening to what we're saying going, oh, you guys are cute. You're way back there. We're this far advanced. But for us, this is just where we are. I wish, look, I'm going to be very vulnerable here. I wish we were better at talking dirty to each other. We
end up laughing.
We're trying. It's like
we end up laughing,
Yeah.
or I end up cussing, and it's just, it is what it is. But that's just us.
I know.
I mean, the other thing that I would consider is you've got to put down what you know. You have to be willing to learn, because growing up, whenever someone talked about creams or cock rings or, pills, it was always, oh, that's for ED. No, it's not. And you have to get that out of your head, because there are other reasons that people use those things. And it's not just because there's a problem. Same with women. Some people say, oh, well, if she's using a vibrator, it's because you can't get her off. That's not true at all.
Right.
That's not it at all. There are some people that these are things that I have heard in talking to the people that I have talked to in the groups that I'm involved in. And it's like, some of them, you hear women talking about vibrators like, oh, because it's for self-pleasure. Not necessarily true. Can it be? Sure. I mean, duh. But there is something to be said about you and I and using these things together. It brings a different level and a different dynamic. Just because it's what you've heard doesn't necessarily mean that's the only purpose.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that that's the only reason, and you've got to get that out of your head. Because in the beginning, Quincy and I struggled because the mention of bringing in toys was like, am I not enough? Am I not satisfying? Do you need something more from me? Does he need something more from me? This is the script that ran through our heads.
Yeah.
And then that was the constant battle between each other was, okay, then I'm not even going to mention that I'm considering this, because I don't want you to feel like you're not enough for me, or that, you're not doing it for me anymore. That's not the case. But
I think for both of us, that was all based in our insecurities.
exactly. But it's also part of what we learned. Growing up in the time frame that you and I were growing up, these things were like, you didn't discuss these things. You didn't.
I don't discuss them anyway. I don't go around talking to other guys about my sex life. It sounds like women share a lot.
We do.
But, with me, there's...
Within a realm of
Yeah.
I don't tell all details, but yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, I talk about sex with you and on this podcast. And that's it. I mean, I'm not out talking about sex.
I ask questions. I am a curious little thing. So when people are like, have you ever tried this? I'll be reading a thread and be like, hold on, wait a minute, time out. Where do I find information about that? And it's not necessarily because I'm blurting out, hey, we've done this. That's not it at all. It's like, that intrigues me. I don't know why it intrigues me, but I'd like to know more. And then when I get to reading about it, it's like, oh, no, that does not intrigue me anymore. This is not new.
Well, and some of it you've done like within your authors group because you write romance.
Yeah. And you have to be able to spice it up in a book.
Yeah. And so I understand that part. But like I'm saying, I don't talk about, I might mention in an overtone of, or when people find out I have 8 kids, it's like, oh, it's like, hey, man.
We found out what we were good at and we stuck to it.
And, just trying to find a place to close this out because it is a great discussion, and I hope it's helping our people. There's always going to be a place in our relationship for the standard missionary love-making position, because there are times where you need me for that, to hold you, to make love to you, which is great. And I can tell, because the look on your face and your eyes and how you react is like, it's almost like it's a safe place where you just feel like you're protected, there's pleasure, there's connection. But to go beyond that, as we get older, and we will have to prepare for sex in our 60s and 70s, hopefully 80s and 90s, your body is just not going to work how it did. So
We'll find a way.
We'll find a way. Fortunately, we'll find a way. So those are just things to think about. But, I mean, this discussion went a long ways from where it started. But it's a healthy discussion to talk about your sex life and hopefully create some conversations for you and your wife. And I invite you to ask your spouse to have a listen to the podcast and just see what those things are. And look at the One Extraordinary Marriage. I'm not trying to keep you here at this podcast as your only resource for marriage.
No.
I would never try to do that. Tony and Elisa really have helped us. We had the pleasure of going to their marriage conference. We had the pleasure of meeting them face to face and having a discussion. Jeannie had some mega aha moments at that one marriage conference. And so I really appreciate what they do. They've been doing it for over a decade. We've been doing this going on 4 years. And our marriage has grown because of this podcast and how we sit across the table from each other.
It's therapy for us.
It is marriage
It's
therapy.
our own personal coaching session.
Right. And that's why we're starting to bring other couples into the podcast so that they can give their experience, because you hear a lot about our experience and your fellow listeners. But I want you to have resources. So the One Extraordinary Marriage, great resource. We have another couple that approached us and said, hey, we would love to come on your podcast and talk about ABC. Another guy that I know that was pretty prominent in his field, and some things, very destructive things happened to his marriage, and thank God they were able to repair it. He was able to do some pretty deep counseling and some reflection. And he wants to come on and talk about his experience with his marriage and what he and his wife have been through. And then at some point, I would love to get Tony and Elisa on, because Elisa is a professional marriage counselor, which Jeannie and I don't espouse to be that. We can coach you based on our knowledge. We can coach you, but we're not counselors. So the One Extraordinary Marriage, Front Row Dads was an excellent podcast that I was listening to. I've kind of stepped out of that a little bit because my focus has been elsewhere. And then Kim Anami, she has, I believe, her own podcast, but she's got YouTube. She's got some kind of boot camp stuff where she can help you as well. But I say that because your sex life, your marriage, your connection is important to us in a sense that it's something that is a vital part of our relationship. And we want to sow into you in that area, and that's why we're bringing this out. And if you have some things that have helped your relationship, or even Dan Purcell and Get Your Marriage On. He was a great dude that we had on, and we were actually a part of one of his. He did some kind of sweepstakes or something. Some kind of a challenge, and I can't remember. But he talks about sex and marriage and relationship, and has plenty of guests on. So he's another one. Get Your Marriage On is another great resource for your marriage. So check into those things. We're giving you this information because it is something that has helped us grow. It's helped us connect, and we want to help you do the same. Anything to finish it off, honey?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. I guess we'll leave it right there. Don't forget to use those email addresses, Jeannie at mvsmpodcast.com, Quincy at mvsmpodcast.com. If you would, go give us a 5-star or 6-star rating or review, if there is such a thing as a 6-star. And until the next time, that's Jeannie, I'm Quincy, and this is Man versus Marriage.
the podcast. How good do you want your life to be?
You gotta live on purpose, for a purpose.
It's truly about becoming the best version of yourself that's possible. This is Man vs. Married, the podcast.